Hi guys, welcome back to another video of the Q2FY26 series, and in today's video we will be discussing only one company, and that is going to be Manorama Industries. Okay, so I think a lot of y'all by now y'all are aware of the business model, but if you're somebody who's new to the channel and आपको Manorama के बारे में ये क्या करता है business क्या नहीं करता है, I will just link a video of my older video of mine, and you can watch it just to get an idea of what Manorama Industry does. But in a short and sweet way, if I have to talk about Manorama Industries, ये लोग क्या करते हैं? These people make cocoa butter equivalent. Now, what is cocoa butter equivalent? You might see, a lot of in this cosmetic industries, in the food industries, in the bakery industries, to make your chocolates, to make your, certain kind of bakery products, you will use cocoa butter, okay, which is made from your cocoa seeds. These people make cocoa butter equivalent. ये cocoa butter का क्या problem है? This cocoa butter depends on the prices of cocoa, right? And cocoa prices are very unstable. कभी कभी ऊपर जाता है, नीचे जाता है. And not just that, right? It becomes, it's so expensive. You can't use उतना सा cocoa butter भी, ठीक है? So ये बनाते हैं cocoa butter equivalent, which is similar to cocoa butter in all your physical properties, chemical properties. But instead of being made from the cocoa seeds, right? It is made from आपका mango का seed, sal seed, shea butter, shea का seeds and everything. Or like I told you, these people also use this, the shea butter, however you pronounce it. It is also used in cosmetic industry. So ये करता है. इसका majority of the seed collection, it is like 60-40. 60% of the seed collection happens in India, and the other 40% उनका एक subsidiary है in the African subcontinent. And वहाँ से ये लोग ये shea butter का जो shea seeds है, ये लोग these people source it from there. So this is मोटा मोटी the business model. Okay, and यहाँ पे we've seen from the last year it has been because the Manorama was a kind of company that was doing decent, like मतलब 20% का growth कर रहा था. And last time क्या किया उन्होंने आके guidance बढ़ा दिया कि like भाई मैं तो 750 crores we will do something in that range, right? And again, even for this year also, the starting of the year in Q4 of FY25, they guided for FY25-26, they guided for 1050 crore, which was roughly a 35 to 40% kind of growth rate for the year FY25-26. But then came the Q1 FY26 performance, which was last quarter ka performance, and it was really off the charts, right? Matlab 80% se I believe the sales grew, right? And that was kind of shocking because agar aapne Q1 mein, because if you look at Manorama as an industry, it is a kind of industry jahan pe H2 is greater than that of H1. Okay, so H2 mein almost 60-65% ka sale hota hai, and H1 mein the rest 35 to 40% ka sale. And in that also, in Q1, in the beginning of the year only, you have done 83% ka sale. Matlab 83% Q1 on Q1 ka growth, right? And you have done like such a stellar set of numbers. Matlab aapne 290 crores kar liya, 300 crore kar liya in the first quarter. So obviously, when you have done such a good set of numbers in Q1, like there was a slight hope कि like आगे जाके शायद ये जो guidance दिया था 1050 crore का जो guidance दिया था for in the beginning of this year, there is a higher probability कि like ये जो guidance है, they might overdo the guidance, right? Because if you do the calculation, Q1 में also, even if they do 300 crores, and even if they continue to do 300 into 4, let's say it doesn't improve, it's like 1200 crores, right? That's roughly more, it's still more than the guidance. Now if you see, they've come and they've told कि like in Q2 of FY26 का उन्होंने, if you अगर आप PPT में देखते हो, you see the company has come and told कि like हम लोग 1050 नहीं, we will increase the guidance and we will do 1150 crore. So earlier Manorama Industry, which was a 35 to 40% ka growth engine, now it is a 50% ka growth engine. And anybody who's gotten either the portfolio analysis workshop or the investment checklist workshop, this is a good sign, right? Because when guidance increases, आपका गाड़ी का speed बढ़ जाता है. Earlier you were a 35 to 40% का growth engine, so your car was going at, let's say, 35 to 40 kilometer per hour. Now you are going at 50 kilometer per hour, which means what? You end up reaching the destination at a very less period of time, at a slightly less period of time, right? So this is, when you increase the guidance and आपका गाड़ी का speed बढ़ जाता है, you know that this is a very very good news. Okay, so why did they increase this guidance? What gave them the confidence to increase this guidance, and how has the Q2 FY26 numbers been? अगर मैं पहले बात करूं इनका Q2 FY26 number, again off the charts, right? If you look at the sales on a Q2 on Q2 basis, the sales grew by 68%. And similarly, if you look on H2 versus H2 basis, it grew by 65%. Very brilliant thing is the operating leverage. I mean, I have never expected, even in Q1, I never expected the kind of operating leverage these people got, because इनको कितना ज्यादा operating leverage मिलेगा ना, कितना तेजी से वो PAT grow करेगा, उतना आपका valuation कम होता रहेगा, right? Because if the PAT growth is not as fast, right, then आपका क्या होगा? This becomes at, high growth, high P engine. जितना इसका PAT बढ़ेगा, because ultimately P का denominator क्या है, right? You would need the PAT for the denominator. So जितना PAT बढ़ेगा, उतना आपका P कम होता रहेगा. So जितना यहाँ पे PAT बढ़ेगा, it goes from that case to, remember we did that PE versus growth, please watch that video. So it goes from, instead of being that high growth high P engine, it becomes a high growth low P engine. So even if you look at the PAT on a year on year basis, it doubled, matlab literally 100% se PAT grew hua. And if you look on a H2 on H2 basis, the PAT grew by 165%. Even if you look at the EBITDA margin, because see, a lot of people had a problem over here कि like bhai ye to, these people are making seeds, B2B business hai, like pura ka pura. And यहाँ पे even if you look at the EBITDA margin also has seen a very good improvement, 20 से 27% हुआ on a Q2 on Q2 basis, okay? And a similar kind of growth even on a H2 on H2 basis. Why? Because these people are pushing more towards value added products. अगर आप अभी देखते हो, almost 70% of the sales is coming from value added products that is there, okay? Now, like I told you, इनका ये confidence कहाँ से आ रहा है कि like these people, why did they increase the guidance? 1050 से 1150 crore क्यों करे? Because we've seen the numbers are great, Q2 numbers are great, but as an investor, what is important? That the company continues to maintain the pace of growth, yeah, increases the pace of growth, right? And we have to see आगे जाके भी this pace of growth is maintained. Now, if you look at it, why did they do so? Because a few developments have happened over here. पहला चीज है, if you remember last July, this is July, we are in 2025, July of 2024, these people added a new fractionation plant, okay? By the way, I will link that Panorama का video below, please watch that. मैंने वहाँ पे ना पूरा एक कोको बटर जो इक्विवेलेंट है CB, उसका क्या प्रोसेस है, मतलब हाउ इट इज मेड फ्रॉम द सीड कलेक्शन टू द एंड प्रोसेस, मैंने पूरा वहाँ पे एक्सप्लेनेशन किया है. You can watch that video. So last time you remember in July of 2024, उनका एक fractionation plant went live, right? And they increased the fractionation capacity to 40,000 metric tons per annum. Okay. Now what they're doing, the same fractionation plant, they are increasing from 40,000 metric tons per annum to 52,000 metric tons per annum. So that's roughly a 30-35% increase in capacity. Now यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? It is just going to be a small expansion. मतलब आपका ये body bottlenecking, आप बोल सकते हो ये कर रहा है, and it will take them 10 to 15 days to do it, and they will do it in Q3, that is in the end of the December they will do, and by Jan again this plant will be live with 52,000 metric tons per annum. This is one of the reasons which gives them the confidence to reach that 1,150 crore, okay, because of this expansion in facility. The other thing what they're doing is, these people are doing roughly a capex of 450 crore, okay? Now where is this 450 crore of capex going? ये सिर्फ सारा का सारा backward integration पे जा रहा है. Like I told you, इनका एक subsidiary है in कहाँ पे, in Africa, because only in Africa you get that shea seeds या shea seed आप बोलते हो, you might see it in a lot of आपका body lotions like shea butter बोलते हैं. I do not know how you pronounce it. Some pronounce it as shea, some pronounce it as shea, जो कुछ भी हो, as long as you and I understand and we are vibing, that's all that matters. So यहाँ पे if you look at it, in Africa में इन्होंने क्या किया है, there are two things they have done. One is they have set up a subsidiary in the Western Africa, ठीक है, and Burkina बोल के एक place है. With that they have signed an MOU with that government, to set up this process. Extra ये seed, once you collect the seed, ये seed क्या होता है ना, ये seed पूरा forest में फैला रहता है, ठीक है, and वहाँ पे they send all these villages, the tribes that are there, they will collect the seed and they will come. Once the seed is come, you have to extract the seed ना, उसको clean करके उसको उसका अंदर का जो part है you have to extract to make that oil, to collect that oil. So ये जो seed extraction facility है, they are going to put up there, which is going to be an MOU with this Burkina का government, and this will give them a capacity of 70,000 metric tons. एक backward integration है, वहाँ से seed collect करके आएगा, then obviously यहाँ पे पूरा fractionation distillation plant अपना इंडिया का plant में करवाएगा. So इसके वजह से उसका inventory days जो है that will get reduced. That is what they're telling. This is something we have to track and see, but this is one setup that is coming. Second is Latin America में what they're seeing is they're seeing a lot of demand, okay, but unfortunately it becomes very difficult when you have to go to another country, abide by their rules, वहाँ पे अपना plant बिठाना. It becomes very tedious now for any country when you are based out of one country दूसरे country में जाके अपना operations बिठाना. So what they're doing, they're entering into an agreement with this company called as Dekel in Brazil. यहाँ पे क्या करेगा, these people will use their facility, अपना कुछ capex नहीं Brazil में, ठीक है, मनोरमा का कुछ नहीं है, ठीक है, ये उनका केपेक्स यूज करेगा, उनका फैसिलिटी यूज करेगा, एंड देयर दे विल स्टार्ट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग दिस स्पेशलिटी फैट्स विच इज अ वैल्यू एडेड प्रोडक्ट, एंड देन फ्रॉम देयर दे विल सप्लाई टू लैटिन अमेरिका का रीजन. सो दिस वे क्या होगा, विदाउट डूइंग एनी केपेक्स they will be able to penetrate more into that Latin America region, giving them a geographical expansion. So जितना आपका geographical expansion बढ़ेगा, क्या होगा वहाँ पे? If you know the investment checklist workshop, the more geographical presence, the more footprint you get, क्या volume growth आपका आएगा, right? So this is the second thing. And third thing क्या करे, इंडिया में they're setting up an MOU with the छत्तीसगढ़ government. You know, आगे जाके अगर कोई भी capex हो सकता है, it will be maybe sort of a partnership. This उतना clarity नहीं है. I believe earlier in one of the con calls they told they want to put up some 5 plans. This is very very long back. They didn't give any clarity ki like ye 5 plans kya hai, kya karega. Maybe it is something related to that. So now this entire thing, right, these 3 things that I spoke about, and the the fractionation plant where they're increasing the capacity by 30%, 40,000 metric tons to 52,000 metric tons jo bola tha, the entire thing will cost them around I think around 450 crore, right? So this is the more or less capex happening. Now if you put the checklist, like tuck tuck tuck, think about it. Let's revise the checklist once. Okay, do you understand the business model? The answer is yes. The second thing after the business model, what do you go for? You go for the sales growth. Now in the sales growth, you check for what? You check if the pace of growth is maintained or if the pace of growth is increased. In this case, if you see, Manorama ka pace of growth has been maintained because it is a 60 to an 80% ka growth engine. Has it maintained over the quarter in Q2? Yes. The second part of that pace of growth is what? Do you see if the guidance has increased? Yes, the guidance has increased. Now it's well and good that the guidance and the pace of growth is there, but you have to come to the another point, which is how do they plan to achieve this guidance? They have to do some sort of capex, or they're entering into a newer geography which gives them the volume growth, right? If you look at it, even that has been done, right? Capex bhi kar raha hai, and along with that, they're entering into new geographies in the Western Africa and the Latin America region, which will give them the volume growth. Okay, now let's talk about this. ये जो 450 करोड़ को उन्होंने capex किया है ना, I mean it has not yet started. These people are also planning कि like I mean it could also be done by internal accruals या debt या QIP, or could be a combination of 3. They told कि like आगे जाके हमारे press release में con call में हम ज़्यादा clarity देंगे, ठीक है? Other than that, I think a lot of people have one thing is like cocoa prices का बारे में, because a lot of people believe that ये जो entire Manorama का growth है, it has come mainly because if you have seen the last 2 years, the cocoa prices have been an upward trajectory, because ये जो cocoa है, ये जो cocoa का seeds है, this is only harvested, or it can be grown in that African region and few Southern America region. Okay, it's very very like you need a lot of weather conditions to go right, and only few geographies में ये cocoa आप उगा सकते हो, ठीक है? और उस regions में क्या हुआ था, flood, a lot of not flood, क्या बोल रही हूँ मैं, a lot of basically the geography conditions were not right, the weather conditions were not right in those geographies, and पूरा supply chain का एक ऊपर नीचे हो गया था. Cocoa prices went rapidly high, and you will see even you can just catch up with Hershey's, which is like the biggest consumption of cocoa that they do, which is the biggest company. उनका CEO भी आके बोला था कि like भाई I've been working in this industry for the last 20 years, I've never seen cocoa prices rise up to this extent in my entire in my entire career, right? It's never happened. So क्या हुआ था, a lot of people thought cocoa prices का इतना price बढ़ रहा है, and that is why Manorama, which is making a cocoa butter equivalent, that is why इसका इतना demand आ रहा है. But that is not the case, because क्या होता है, especially in the food industry and the cosmetic industry, cosmetic अभी छोड़ दो, food industry especially, which is a huge consumption of cocoa, यहाँ पे क्या है, although like and see, think about it, not every single person, if they had a chance to use cocoa butter equivalent, which is like literally 1/10 of the price of your cocoa butter, don't you think every single company will use, मतलब उनका ही profit margin बढ़ेगा ना, if you're using something which is 1/10 of the price? But you can't do it. Why you can't do it? Because every single body, whether if you're in the US, you have the FDA, in India you have that FSSAI, you are not allowed to use cocoa butter equivalent in your product. Like आपका जितना मन मर्जी है आप use कर लो भाई, मतलब ऐसा नहीं चलता. You have a limit. Earlier limit था, according to FSSAI in India, if you see, earlier the limit था कि like you are supposed to use only 2 to 3% of your cocoa butter equivalent in your chocolates, in your bakery products. A couple of years back क्या हुआ, the FSSAI came and they told कि like instead of 3% you can increase up to 5%. Okay, along with that the cocoa butter का prices का भी ये उतार चढ़ाव हो गया. That is why. But the main reason is FSSAI का regulation which allowed the companies to take up the cocoa butter equivalent percentage in their product from 2 to 3, from that to 5%. This was a major thing, which opened up the demand, which opened up the gateway for Manorama Industries. And along with that, obviously, थोड़ा सा added advantage आ गया cocoa butter का, prices ऊपर चढ़ा. But now if you see, cocoa का prices has come, it has corrected a lot, it has fallen by 30%, 40% from the top. But you do not see that affecting the cocoa butter equivalent prices, because the same time last year CBE ka prices was around 5,000 6,000 rupees per ton. Even right now, if we see, even after the cocoa butter ka prices being, if the cocoa ka prices have been corrected, in spite of that, cocoa butter equivalent ka price per ton is still ranging in that 5,000 to 6,000. Another advantage that Manorama has is unka sara ka sara contracts works in a year. So irrespective of whatever happens in the cocoa butter prices, whether it goes up or goes down, you have, they work and like a contract like bhai itna ton ka itna dena padega irrespective of whatever happens. So this is one more advantage. That is why, they're hedged properly, they're protected. That is not really a cause of concern which a lot of people have. And I believe the other cause of concern people had was like, in terms of export, because if you look at FY25 ka end, 80% came from export, pura ka pura sale. But if you look at H1, almost only 58 to 60% is coming from export, 40 came from domestic. Okay, a lot of people had this confusion ki like, अरे यार, Trump का इतना tariff चल रहा है, all of that stuff is happening, and it might affect, it might affect Manorama and so forth. But that is not the case. I've also discussed this in the Q1 FY26 workshop, if you remember, कि like Manorama Industries का US का export का portion was only 5% of FY25. If you look at H1 of FY26, US का export portion is just 2 to 3%. So it is almost nothing. It is insignificant, to be worried about export ka thing. Okay, so overall a good update. I think I've covered everything, right? Like we've seen, I believe that the last part is a valuation. Now if I assume कि like ये शायद 200 करोड़ करेगा, maybe 150 to 200 करोड़ करेगा, in this year FY25-26, these people will probably do something around maybe in that range of PAT. Then the 1 year forward PE comes up to between 43 to around 50 का PE में आता है. If I take आज का market cap, which is 8,771 crore, so it comes up to that. इसका कितना है? 50% का growth engine है, right? So earlier I believe, if you look at Manorama, it actually went from a high growth high PE engine to like high growth low PE engine right now. Okay, because इसका जो PAT is growing at a way faster rate, that is there, which is making the valuation look cheaper. Now obviously अगर यहाँ से भी एक re-rating होता है, then again it goes back to that high growth high PE engine, and then it has to sustain that growth rate in order to justify the valuation that the market has given. Okay, so ultimately यहाँ पे क्या आता है? You have to track more than valuation, you have to track यहाँ पे क्या growth rate को maintain करना है. इसको almost 60% का growth rate को maintain करना है, otherwise all hell will break loose. That is the thing. And management, they refrain from giving guidance for FY27 and so forth, and I understand that, because यहाँ पे if you look at it, the most important thing is seed आपका. You have to collect the seed, and पूरा का पूरा seed का collection happens in the month of April to July. So for this year, कि like भाई you're sorted with FY25-26 your seed collection. Next year का seed collection will depend on क्या? FY26-27 का, it will depend on the next year, ना 2026 July to April to July का, on that it depends the seed का season. So it will be very hard for them to comment right now what will happen in 26-27. But the way the con call happened, just the feel that I got is, कि like that, probably this kind of guidance that is there, they will be able to maintain, provided that the capex and all happens. They should be able to maintain it. It shouldn't be very, very tough for them, like it should be. Only thing what I see the management is, they are a little bit conservative in terms of giving the guidance, and whoever their investor relations team is, you have to give them kudos, because they've really trained them. They've really trained the management well. I think management understands कि like भाई मैंने guidance दिया, and sometimes with or without my fault, if I'm not able to maintain guidance, the market will thrash me, like that's given. And उन्होंने भी वही बोला कि like like I would, I don't want to give guidance when I'm not sure what's going to happen, and business में तो risk है, like business is not linear, कभी ऐसा होता है, right? It is a part and parcel. So but one thing I think 25-26 this year, that is that it's going to be stunning. 2 more quarters they should be able to do that 1,150 crore, and from this high growth low P engine, which it has been re-rated to case 1 from case 2, it should again go from case 1 to case 2, considering the journey that is there. And one of the common questions that I get with Manorama is like bhai, stock क्यों चल नहीं रहा है, right? Like, stock is not running because I think even in the last quarter they had a very stunning performance. This quarter Q2 is another stunning performance, and people are like, oh, maybe the valuations are too high, that is why. But here is the thing, right? See, you have, as an investor, your job is to track the result and take decision based on that result. Don't take decision based on the stock price, because you will always lose to the market when you take decisions based on the stock price. यहाँ पे you do not know why the stock price is not running. There can be multiple reasons. If you talk about me and you, maybe we are investors who are looking, at we are hoping for this to be, like a long term game plan. There can be somebody who यहाँ पे trade कर रहे हैं. There are many things, that is beyond our control. There are many things that happen where you and I don't know why certain things, like stock का क्यों नहीं चल रहा है. You focus on the game, you focus on reading the management con call and all of these things, and rest everything, just leave it, just leave it. And I can give you another example ना. V2 retail, think about it. Q1 में इतना अच्छा तगड़ा result किया था. Increase the guidance. It beat everybody in the space. Stock ने कुछ नहीं किया 3 months, and then within 1 week the stock literally went up, rallied from, I think 1800 to 2500 just within a week. So that is the thing. Do not, stock price को throw it out of the window. Do not be swayed by the stock price, whether it is going down, going up. You have to be like a stoic over here. आपका पूरा का पूरा decision making process that is there, it has to come down to one thing and one thing only. business का performance, धंधा क्या कर रहा है, उसके ऊपर आप decision लो. That is when and only you will become a good investor. That is it. ठीक है. Stock price जो भी कर रहे हैं, that is out. And it's like, you get up every day and you put your work, and then after that you आप भगवान के भरोसे में छोड़ देते हो ना. It is a similar way over here. So that's it, guys, about Manorama Industries. I will do another video. There is another business called as Crysac, and एक Ayurvedic company है similar to the likes of Gina Seco जो products बनाते हैं. But I do not know if I'll be able to do a video today because Diwali का time है ना. So there are a lot of kids in my area. They keep bursting crackers, so that gets detected in the video वो noise. And obviously अगर आप 20 मिनट मेरा वीडियो सुन रहे, it becomes very uncomfortable, and that is why मैंने वीडियो नहीं बनाया. So hopefully if the kids don't burst crackers today, maybe I'll make those 2 videos. But that's that, guys. Have a great day and happy Diwali. Bye.